Welcome to the deep dive. You've really sent us some thought-provoking material here, dealing with quantum physics and creativity and problem solving.
Yeah.
It's like you're trying to figure out how to tap into the universe's infinite potential.
Mm-hmm.
We've got excerpts from Nine Wise Men.
Right.
And that seems to be kind of this mystical journey through all these quantum dimensions and then collapsing possibilities, which is more about, a framework for how to take these ideas and actually use them in the real world to boost creativity.
Yeah, I think.
Are you ready to unlock some serious creative firepower?
I'm ready.
Let's dive in.
Yeah, let's do it. It's really fascinating how both these sources kind of converge on this idea that observation shapes reality. It's almost like you think about the universe as this giant quantum computer running all these countless simulations. And it's really our focus that acts as the code that determines which program runs.
Nine Wise Men throws us right into this mysterious chamber with 9 glowing orbs. Each of them is called a domain of resonance. It's like different facets of creative energy, like stillness, resonance, even chaos. But what really caught my eye was how the protagonist ends up choosing the all-observer, the secret 13th domain. What's the deal with that?
Well, that choice, I think, is really key because the all-observer isn't about controlling these forces, but rather it's about harmonizing with them.
Okay.
Imagine if you could dissolve your ego and become this silent witness, just perceiving this interconnectedness of everything. It's a really powerful concept, and it actually resonates with the quantum address theory of creativity from collapsing possibilities.
Okay, so collapsing possibilities takes a bit more of a practical approach, suggesting that every problem actually has this unique quantum address in a field of infinite potential. So the solution is already there, right? We just need to tap into it. How do we actually do that?
Yeah, so we align ourselves with it through our focus and intention.
Okay.
I always like to use this example of tuning a radio. You adjust that dial to find the specific frequency you want.
Right.
In this case, our focus is the dial, and the solution is the frequency.
Intriguing. But how does this tuning actually work? What does it mean to align our focus and intention with a solution that's already out there?
Well, collapsing possibilities breaks down creativity as this really interesting kind of dance between chaos, raw potential, and order, which is structure.
Okay.
And it argues that too much of either actually stifles innovation. So the sweet spot is really about balancing those two. Think about brainstorming, for example. Initially, you just let those ideas flow freely, right? You embrace the chaos.
Yeah.
But then you have to bring in some order. And that's where you use frameworks to sift through those ideas, connect them, and refine them into something workable.
That makes sense. It reminds me of the story of the writer in Collapsing Possibilities who was totally blocked. Just trying to force out this perfect story, and they just couldn't do it. Their breakthrough actually came when they just started observing their thoughts, just accepting those messy fragments without judgment. Would you say that's like the observer effect in action?
Precisely. I think that's a perfect example of it. They shifted from trying to control the creative process to just observing it. By creating that space for chaos and becoming a mindful witness, the solution actually revealed itself. And both these sources really seem to highlight this profound shift in perspective.
So if we connect this back to our listeners, how do we actually apply these really heady quantum concepts to everyday life and become better problem solvers?
Collapsing Possibilities actually lays out 12 dimensions of creativity. Each one represents a different aspect of the quantum field that we can actually learn to work with.
The dimension of time really stood out to me. The book suggests that aligning with the natural flow of time can actually enhance creativity. So instead of always rushing, it's about recognizing that ideas need time to kind of simmer and develop.
Right.
What are some practical ways we can do that?
Well, think about time blocking.
Okay.
Instead of just saying it's good, really imagine dedicating Monday mornings just to pure brainstorming.
Okay.
Just allowing that chaos to flow freely.
Yeah.
And then maybe reserve Tuesdays for structuring those ideas into actionable steps.
Yeah.
It's about working with your natural energy rhythms and allowing ideas to marinate, in your subconscious.
I like that. Then there's this whole concept of space. And I don't just mean tidying up your desk. The book talks about creating mental and emotional space too. How does that tie into boosting creativity?
It's about cultivating a space where those ideas can actually breathe. Think about mind mapping. It's literally using blank space to spread out your thoughts and see the connections between them, or even just taking a walk to let your mind wander. That shift in mental and emotional space can be incredibly powerful.
And then what about connectivity? Both sources seem to really emphasize the role of collaboration and relationships in the creative process. Why is that so important?
I like to think of it as tapping into a network of creative potential.
Okay.
When we connect with others, we share ideas, we collaborate, we're actually expanding our own quantum field. Different perspectives bring new energy, they challenge our assumptions, and they often spark those unexpected solutions.
Yeah.
Each person brings their own unique frequency to the table. And when those frequencies resonate, magic can happen.
Okay, so now, consciousness. This feels like a really pertinent one. How does expanding our awareness unlock those hidden possibilities and help us overcome those limiting beliefs that we all have?
This is where it gets really interesting. The book suggests that by becoming more conscious observers of our thoughts, our emotions, and our surroundings, we literally open up to a wider range of possibilities.
Okay.
Solutions that were once hidden actually become visible because our awareness has expanded.
So it's like those limiting beliefs are like these filters on our reality, blocking potential solutions.
Yeah.
And by challenging those beliefs, we're essentially widening the lens, right?
Jackie.
Through which we view the world. But I'm curious, what does it actually feel like to, dissolve the self as the all-observer?
Oh, that's a great question. It's not about erasing your personality or anything like that, but it's about transcending the ego's limitations.
Okay.
Imagine experiencing the world without judgment, just seeing the interconnectedness of everything. It's this state of pure awareness where you're both the observer and the observed.
That sounds like a profound shift in perspective. Now, stillness, this one seems almost counterintuitive, right?
Right.
When we're talking about creativity, because creativity is all about action, right?
Well, not always.
Okay.
I think about stillness as those kind of active pauses where you disconnect from all the noise and you allow your subconscious to do its magic. It's about finding that quiet space where solutions can just kind of bubble up organically. I think taking those active pauses, especially in our, hyper-connected world today, feels almost counterintuitive.
Yeah.
Have you personally experienced that power of stillness in your own creative process?
I really have.
Yeah.
Sometimes the best ideas come when I'm not even really actively trying to solve a problem.
Exactly.
It's like my mind needs that space to just breathe and make those unexpected connections.
Exactly. And finally, we have energy flow.
Okay.
It's about understanding that our creative energy, it ebbs and flows.
Right.
We need to learn how to manage it effectively, not just constantly push for output.
So it's about recognizing when we need to recharge, when to step away and refuel, and when we have that surge of creative energy that we can harness.
Exactly. It's about finding that balance between effort and rest, input and output to sustain creative output over time.
We've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
But there's still so much more to explore in these sources.
So much more.
What other insights are waiting for us in this realm of quantum creativity?
Well, we've only just begun to scratch the surface. Both Nine Wise Men and Collapsing Possibilities delve into reframing setbacks,
Okay.
embracing chaos as a catalyst for innovation, and ultimately embodying the all-observer perspective to solve problems holistically.
It sounds like we have a lot more to unpack.
We do.
Let's dive back in after a quick break to explore these fascinating concepts further. Don't go anywhere.
Yeah, stick with us.
All right, so we are back and, ready to kind of dig deeper into some of these other concepts you mentioned, like, reframing setbacks and seeing chaos as this catalyst for innovation.
Yeah.
It really resonated with me.
It's so interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Both Nine Wise Men and Collapsing Possibilities really seem to suggest that setbacks and failures aren't just these obstacles to overcome,
Right.
but actually like integral parts of the creative journey.
So it's not just about like failing fast and failing often, like some entrepreneurs say.
Right.
It's more about really like taking those experiences and learning from them and using them to refine our approach.
Exactly.
So is that kind of what Collapsing Possibilities is getting at with this idea of renewal?
Yes. Collapsing Possibilities introduces this concept of renewal where entropy, that chaotic breakdown, actually paves the way for transformation and growth. It's like the mythical phoenix rising from the ashes.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, when something fails, it's a chance to reassess, learn from what didn't work.
And wouldn't that also tie back to that idea of collapsing possibilities being the cyclical process? That we're constantly moving between chaos and order, creation and destruction, setbacks and breakthroughs.
Absolutely.
It's not this linear path, but it's more like a spiral, right?
All right.
Always kind of moving upwards.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And Nine Wise Man actually reinforces this cyclical nature of reality with its focus on the domain of cycles. The idea that these patterns repeat themselves at every level, from the tiniest particles to the grandest cosmic events.
So how can we actually apply this cyclical view to our own creative processes?
Well, think about it this way. Those moments of failure, those dips into chaos, they're actually essential for us to reach that next level. They're not something to fear, but something to actually embrace.
Okay.
The book gives this really compelling example of an entrepreneur whose first business failed.
Okay.
But the lessons they learned from that experience actually allowed them to create something even more successful the second time around.
So it's like even in that failure, there's information there.
Absolutely.
There's a new starting point.
Yes.
And instead of seeing chaos as something to avoid, we can see it as a potential source of energy, a catalyst for these creative breakthroughs.
Precisely. It's about shifting our perspective.
Okay.
Think about the artist who embraces the unpredictable nature of paint splatters, or the musician who improvises a new melody based on a mistake. They're not afraid of that chaos. They're actually using it as fuel for their creativity.
That ties back to that whole concept of the all-observer in Nine Wise Men too, right?
Yes.
It's about seeing that bigger picture.
It is. And collapsing possibilities suggest that by embracing this kind of meta perspective, it can actually help us to solve problems in a more holistic way. We start to understand how all those 12 dimensions that we've been talking about are all interconnected, and how they influence each other.
So instead of getting fixated on finding one right answer, we're kind of looking at the problem from multiple angles, considering all these different factors at play, and then coming up with a solution that resonates with like the whole system.
Exactly. The all-observer isn't attached to any one outcome. It's about harmonizing with the quantum field, seeing the potential in every situation, and allowing the most resonant solution to emerge naturally.
Almost like we're conductors of an orchestra, right? Trying to get all those instruments to play together in harmony.
I love that.
We're not dictating every note, but we're creating the conditions for this beautiful symphony to unfold.
Beautiful.
It's amazing to think about how, consciousness really plays into all of this.
It is. And the more aware we are of our own thoughts, our own biases, our own assumptions, the more effectively we can navigate that quantum field and make choices that are aligned with our true desires.
So it's like becoming a more conscious observer is almost like, upgrading our creative operating system. We're expanding our capacity to process information, make connections, and to see possibilities that were hidden before.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And that's what makes exploring this whole idea of quantum creativity so exciting.
Yeah.
It's not just about finding better solutions to problems.
Right.
It's about expanding our consciousness, evolving as creators, and ultimately becoming more aligned with that infinite potential that surrounds us all.
That's powerful. But let's get practical for a moment.
Okay.
We've explored this amazing framework for tapping into quantum creativity.
Yeah.
But how can we actually apply it in our daily lives? Collapsing possibilities does offer some specific steps, right?
It does. It suggests creating a personalized toolkit of practices.
Okay.
Things like meditation, visualization, journaling, working with creative constraints, and even experimenting with different brainstorming techniques.
So it's about finding what works for you.
Exactly.
What helps you tap into that state of creative flow and align with your own unique quantum address. But that idea of finding our quantum address, it feels kind of daunting,
It can.
Where do we even begin?
That is a great question. And I think both Nine Wise Men and Collapsing Possibilities offer some clues.
Okay.
Remember how in Nine Wise Men, the protagonist chooses that path of the all-observer, embracing the resonance of all the domains? That's such a powerful metaphor for expanding our awareness and opening ourselves up to that full spectrum of our creative potential.
So instead of limiting ourselves to one specific domain, we're recognizing that we have the capacity to tap into all of them. Kind of like we're given this incredible palette of colors, and we get to create our own unique masterpiece.
I love that analogy. And remember, there's no right or wrong way to do this. It's all about exploration. It's about play. It's about allowing ourselves to be surprised by what emerges.
Okay, so if someone's listening to this and they're feeling inspired to tap into their own quantum creativity,
Yeah.
where would you suggest they start?
I would say start by simply noticing. Pay attention to those moments when you feel most energized, most alive, most in flow. What are you doing? Who are you with? What kind of environment are you in? What thoughts and feelings are you experiencing? By paying attention to those patterns, you'll start to get a sense of what resonates most strongly with your unique creative frequency.
Almost like tuning into our own internal radio station, right?
Yes.
Trying to find that sweet spot where the signal is clearest.
Exactly. And then, once you start to get a sense of your own creative rhythm, you can start experimenting with the tools and practices that help you amplify that signal.
Okay.
Maybe it's meditation. Maybe it's spending time in nature. Maybe it's collaborating with others. Maybe it's setting aside dedicated time for creative work.
Right.
The key is to find what works for you.
And to be patient with the process too, right?
Absolutely.
Because like we talked about, creativity isn't always linear.
Right.
There will be setbacks. There will be moments of doubt. There will be times when we feel lost in the chaos.
Absolutely. But those moments are all part of the journey. They're opportunities for learning, for growth, for renewal. And if we can embrace them, we can emerge even stronger and more creative on the other side.
Yeah.
It's not about striving for perfection,
Right.
but about embracing that messy, imperfect beauty of the creative process.
That's so liberating.
It is.
So we really are co-creators of our own reality. We have the power to shape our lives in ways that are both meaningful and fulfilling.
Exactly. And that's what makes this whole exploration of quantum creativity so powerful.
Well, we've covered so much ground in this deep dive. We've explored the mystical realms of 9 wise man
Right.
and the practical framework of collapsing possibilities. And it feels like we've just scratched the surface.
There's always more to discover. That's the beauty of it. This journey of exploring quantum creativity is an ongoing adventure full of endless possibilities. And on that note, I think it's time for us to say goodbye for now.
It has been an incredible journey, but before we go, I want to thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the world of quantum creativity. You know, it really has been a mind-expanding deep dive.
It has.
Feel like we've all really leveled up our understanding of creativity in a way that I didn't expect.
Yeah, me too.
Before we wrap up, though, I kind of want to circle back to something you said earlier about each of us having this unique quantum address in this field of infinite potential.
Right.
It's a really powerful idea, but it's like, how do we actually find that address? How do we unlock our own unique creative power?
That is the million-dollar question. And I think both 9 Wise Men and Collapsing Possibilities kind of offer some guidance there.
Okay, I'm all ears.
You know, remember in 9 Wise Men how the protagonist chooses the path of the all-observer? That embracing the resonance of all the domains?
Right.
It's such a beautiful metaphor for expanding our awareness and opening ourselves up to that full spectrum of creative potential.
So instead of just limiting ourselves to one specific domain, we recognize that we have the capacity to tap into all of them.
Exactly. And Collapsing Possibilities actually gives us these practical tools to do just that. You know, we can experiment with those 12 dimensions of creativity: time, space, connectivity, consciousness, stillness, energy flow, and see which ones really resonate most strongly with us.
So it's almost like we're each given this unique set of ingredients, and then we get to kind of create our own signature dish.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
And remember, there's no one right way to do this.
Right.
It's about playful exploration and allowing ourselves to be surprised by what emerges.
That's so refreshing to hear. So if someone's listening to this deep dive right now,
Yeah.
and they feel really inspired to tap into their own quantum creativity, where would you suggest they begin?
You know, I always say start with observation.
Okay.
Just pay attention to those moments when you feel most energized, most alive, most in flow. What are you doing? Who are you with? What's the environment like? What thoughts and feelings are you experiencing? By really noticing those patterns, you'll start to get a sense of what truly resonates with your unique creative frequency.
It's like we're tuning into our own internal compass, right?
Yes.
Trying to find our true north.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then once you have that sense of your own creative rhythm, you can start experimenting with different tools and practices that help you amplify that signal.
Okay.
Maybe it's meditation. Maybe it's spending time in nature. Maybe it's collaborating with others. Maybe it's setting aside dedicated time for creative work.
Right.
The key is to find what works for you.
And to remember to be patient with ourselves along the way.
Oh, absolutely.
Right, because as we talked about, creativity is not always linear.
It's not.
There will be setbacks. There will be those moments of doubt.
Right.
There will be times when we just feel lost in the chaos.
Absolutely. But remember, those moments are all part of the journey.
Yeah.
They're opportunities for learning, for growth, for renewal. And if we can embrace them, we can emerge even stronger and more creative on the other side.
So it's not about chasing after this idea of perfection,
Right.
but about embracing the messiness of it all.
Absolutely.
The imperfect beauty of the creative process.
Beautifully said.
It's pretty amazing. So we really are co-creators of our own reality.
We are.
We have the power to shape our lives in ways that are both meaningful and fulfilling.
Exactly. And that's what makes exploring quantum creativity so powerful.
Well, on that note, I think it's time for us to wrap up this deep dive.
Sounds good.
But before we do, I just want to thank you for joining us on this incredible journey into the world of quantum creativity.
It was my pleasure.
And remember, you are a co-creator of your reality. So what will you choose to create? We'd love to hear your thoughts. And that concludes another deep dive. We'll see you next time for more fascinating explorations into the world of knowledge and ideas. Until then, happy creating.